Welcome once again to the Just Don't Lose the Money podcast with Sam Lang at Rubino and Liang Wealth Partners. Sam has been helping people retire for an awfully long time. We've been doing radio shows and we've been doing video podcasting and doing everything we can to give you some resources on making this big step into your life. Sam, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. For the longest time, we've been on the radio and people would say, hey, you have a face for radio. Now we're on video, so it's a little different. But yeah, great to be here. Always love talking about how we can help people just really, do a better job and secure their retirement. So.
Well, Sam, one of the things that we talked to, there's the financial aspect of moving your way into retirement. Very important. That's what you do. But you cannot avoid the emotional and psychological differences, too, because when you walk away from work, you've spent 30 years there building your career and building friendships and moving up the career ladder and solving problems. And then what you do is a part of who you are. And then all of a sudden you walk away from that and people wander a little bit sometimes. It takes them a couple of years to actually get going. And two things happen. Number one, it's my son-in-law's parents just retired and they are spending money hand over fist just doing stuff.
Not a good thing.
They're like, look at that closet. We got to do something. Look at this landscape. We want to do something. And they're spending all sorts of money trying to fill that time. And then the other aspect of it is people do nothing. They go into a shell. There's fear. There's fear I'm going to run out of money. There's fear I'm going to get sick. There's fear I'm not going to give enough inheritance to my kids. There's all these things that people have fears about. And I want to explore the idea today with you of, is there anything that we can do in the financial realm of planning that will help the adjustment emotionally and psychologically?
Oh, absolutely. I think to what you said, there's really two sides of retirement. We work so hard, 25, 30 years of our lives for those golden and joyful days. Mm-hmm. And then to your point, you go from going to work every day, seeing your buddies, your pals, having lunch, maybe going out to dinner once in a while, to now you don't see those folks anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's an emotional side that we have to deal with. And from time to time, we have reviews with our clients. And we'll ask them, hey, how's this going? I don't really love retirement. I still go back and hang out with the girls. I used to be a nurse, such and such, and I'll go back to the cafeteria and see them once a week because I miss that. Mm-hmm. So the emotional side, I don't think there's a lot we can help with other than, hey, you got to make sure you stay active. Have some hobbies, do some volunteering. Go ahead.
But if you have the financial part locked down, and I'm thinking of people who are afraid. We use that fear, the fear of running out of money. If you sit down with somebody and have that part locked down so that they know they're not going to run out of money, they have dispendable income, doesn't that help with that adjustment?
So important. And I think that what I was going to begin to say was this other side, which is the financial part, right? Mm-hmm. Making sure that you are in the best possible position as you can be. That's something that we can certainly help with. And I would say of the three sort of areas that people worry about as they go into retirement. One, you hear it from almost 99% of people, which is the money part. Am I going to be okay? Did I save enough? Am I going to run out? What if I live to 100? That type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the other two things sometimes people bring up to us is, number one, what if I get sick? Mm-hmm. I'm seeing that right now in my own family. My mother-in-law's in her late 80s, and she went from living in her own house to assisted living to now she's in a full-fledged nursing home that costs, $15,000 a month. So am I going to get wiped out? So that's the number two. What happens if I get sick? Can I afford it? Am I going to be a burden to my children? And then the third thing is, hey, I have kids, I have families, I have grandchildren. I'd love to give them a little bit of a stepping stone. Can I help them now? Can I help them when I pass away? So how do I leave an inheritance? But those three things, maybe we can spend some time talking about that today.
Well, I think that those three things, when you think about it, am I going to run out of money? Well, there's income planning. Am I going to get sick? Well, that's healthcare planning. And am I going to leave enough to my kids and I feel guilty about spending my money because I want to give them an inheritance? That's estate planning. So those are three things that you do. So if we can get that locked down, I feel good about this.
100%. I think the am I going to run out of money part, a lot of people go into retirement and haven't sort of calculated what they can take out, what percentage, how much they can spend per month. And at the end of the day, they haven't given themselves permission to spend their savings, right? Because we think about sort of the logic in our how we've been taught to think during our accumulation years while we're working, which is save, save, save for the rainy day. Don't touch it.
Yep.
And when you go ahead and touch it, don't touch principal, just spend the interest.
Right.
You know, I'm not so sure that's really the right frame of mind to go behind that. You want to make sure that when you go into retirement, after that paycheck stops, that you have a better sense of what you can spend. You know, think about that. If you go to work every day, you're used to getting a paycheck, whether it's you get paid every 2 weeks or every month. You've budgeted that. You know what's coming in. You know what's going to go out and pay the bills. Hopefully, there's something left over that you can spend, and that's your sort of your luxury, what you can spend in luxury expenses, vacations, what have you. When you stop working, you need to recalculate that. So one of the things that we are able to help people is to figure out what their PIN is. That stands for Portfolio Income Needs, which is essentially what your shortfall is. So for instance, if you want to spend $10,000 a month, and between your Social Security and let's say your pension, it's $6,000 a month. Well, we know you have a shortfall of $4,000 a month. Are you able to go into your portfolio, your savings, and draw out $4,000 a month? How long is that going to last? And if it's $4,000 a month today, it's not going to be $4,000 a month next year because of inflation, as well as depending on where the money is, maybe you have some taxes. Maybe it's coming out of retirement accounts, pre-tax money. Now you got to pay that good old Uncle Sam of ours. So we help people figure that out. And a lot of times people don't really know where to begin. We have a great tool on our website, justdon'tlosethemoney.com, where you can figure out your PIN, your portfolio income needs. And I think that's a really good place to start. That's going to allow you to determine, hey, this is how much I can take out, and I'm going to give myself permission to spend that money. And once you know that, and actually you've done the calculations that you're not going to run out, you have that much more freedom to spend that money that you want.
We're talking about how financial planning can actually help with retirement planning, how the financial nuts and bolts of things can help you make that adjustment emotionally into your retirement years. And Sam, I have heard of people that kind of get into that mode where they sit and they don't want to spend money out of fear. And then it takes a couple of years and then they look at their account and they go, well, it's going up. Maybe I should spend my money.
Well, fear gets in the way. Right? Fear gets in the way of us doing the things that we want to do. So if you haven't done that exercise to give yourself the permission to spend that money, there's that fear factor.
Right.
And if you're sitting around for a year or two, and to your point, your savings goes from $500,000 to $600,000 2 or 3 years later because you haven't given yourself permission to spend. Guess what? Time is getting shorter and shorter in retirement.
There you go.
Right? You don't want to save for that rainy day when the rainy day is you're 82 and you can't really be doing much. What we find is that the first 10 years of retirement is really where we can maximize our time with our families, spend more money on vacations because we're able to do things more freely, where our health might be a little bit better. So you want to be able to figure that out and have somebody either work with you or coach you up or assist you in determining what you're comfortable with spending, and then show you that you're not going to run out of money, because that is the number one fear. Am I going to be okay? Am I going to run out of money?
I've heard people say that spending in retirement's a little like a smile. At the beginning, you're kind of off to the races and you go do all the trips that you always wanted to do, and then you've done that, and then spending goes down a little bit, and then it goes back up again in your later years because of health issues. So let's tackle number 2 on the fear list here, and that is, I'm afraid I'm going to get sick, which kind of relates to I'm afraid I'm going to run out of money, because we all know that being sick can be very expensive in your elder years.
And that's not something that we're not known. It's not known to us. We all know that. We all know that if you get sick, that price tag, that monthly dollar sign gets pretty hefty.
Right.
So what do you do about it? There are ways, and I think the first thing that you need to make sure is, one, you take care of yourself, that you have enough money that you can spend on your own while you're healthy. And then 2, if there's something that you want to protect, go ahead and do that by using trusts. There are products that you can put money into that will give you additional dollars if you cannot perform, say, 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living. You can hire a good estate planning elder law attorney to help you shore up by having a good estate plan using protective trust, irrevocable trust, and sometimes you can put your house into that trust. Maybe you can even put money into that trust that can not be taken away from you in the event you need, say, a nursing home. Laws and rules are different in every state, so you just want to make sure that you check. Here in Massachusetts, there are very specific rules. So for instance, if you are a married couple, give or take, you can keep about $150,000, and then everything you have to would have to be spent based on the level of care if you needed to go into a nursing home. So it's important to protect that money. I mean, most people that we see might have more than $1 million. So if you think about that, well, there's about $850,000 at risk. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and protect that. And there are different ways of approaching how do I protect the money in the event you go into a nursing home. So health is one of those things that we can't really, predict. We know plenty of people that are very healthy. In fact, I have a client who just retired. He's 66 years old, on top of the world, saved plenty of dough, runs marathons, and all of a sudden he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So, that's not obviously a good diagnosis, and we all know what happens with that disease. Eventually, you're going to need some help. So we want to make sure that you plan and protect your assets in the event that happens.
And we've all heard those stories before, so it's so important to, when you get into retirement, to enjoy your retirement. If you talk to people who are in retirement, you ask them, what's your biggest regret? And many of them will say, I wish I would have retired sooner because I'm having a great time doing this. And time is of the essence. I mean, time is something you can't get back, right?
You can't get back. And to that point, a lot of times people work, I can't retire till I'm 65 or 67. Well, why? Well, because that's kind of like the unwritten rule. Says who? So if you haven't gone through the exercise of calculating, hey, you know what, this is what I spend, this is what I need in retirement, and that equates to, let's say, having $1 million. Well, if you've saved $2 million, what are you waiting for? Right?
Exactly.
If you're tired of just the grind, or maybe you want to take more time off or just spend time with your family, if you haven't gone through that exercise to figure out if you can pull it off or not, it's time, right? So figuring out what your PIN is, your portfolio income needs, is really, really important.
We're talking about giving you the confidence to spend, giving you the confidence to go out there and enjoy your retirement. The third one on our list here, when we talk about the fear list, the fear of running out of money, the fear I might get sick, and then there's the fear, and it actually goes into the guilt area. I've got 3 kids. I really want to give them a head start in their life. I want to be able to give my grandchildren an education or something like that. I don't want to spend because I want to make sure they have enough money in inheritance. So that gets into the area of estate planning, Sam.
100%. So, one of the questions that we ask in the first initial contact and that fact find with a potential client is, how important is it for you to leave some money behind to your family? And we ask them to grade themselves, give themselves a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you don't care. 10, you care very, very much. Most people are like a 7 and an 8. They might say, well, I don't want to live on, tuna fish sandwiches for the rest of my life to leave something to my children, but I want to be able to enjoy my retirement, do the things that I want to do. But if there's something left over, yeah, of course, I want to make every effort to protect that portion of the money for my heirs. There's really, again, 2 schools of thought on that. Sometimes people say, hey, you know what? I don't want to wait till I'm dead to give them the money. I want to see them enjoy it now. If my grandson or my granddaughter you got into a great college and my children can't afford to help them pay for that tuition, I want to be able to step up and help them. So depending on the goals of our radio listeners or people watching us on YouTube right now, if that's something that's important to you, you need to voice that to your advisor so you can plan around that. And there are many different ways of sort of addressing that goal, whether it's putting the money aside now, whether it's putting money aside for later when you pass away to give that to them. Because again, sometimes people say, well, I don't want to give them too much. Then I'm spoiling them. I don't want to enable them. Or I want to maybe give it to them after I pass, but I got 3 kids and 2 of them are terrific. I love my children equally, but man, little Johnny can't handle money and he'll, buy 10 new cars the day after, that type of thing. So depending on what and how you want to leave them the money, if inheritance planning is important to you, go ahead and fix that. And there's plenty of ways, again, to address that concern.
Well, Sam and the team at Rubino Liang Wealth Partners are in the business of helping you realize and enjoy your retirement. And just a little fun here at the end, Sam. I was wondering, we want everybody to get their retirement off to a good start. Do you recommend and just say, you want to travel? I want you to come back here on our next meeting and show me that you've got tickets and you've booked a cruise or you've booked a vacation, and then I want you to book your next one and book your next one because you have something to look forward to, and that's something great in retirement. Do you tell people actually to go out there and make your plans and buy your tickets?
Well, the important thing is once we know they can actually travel, maybe fly first class, buy those tickets, then we're obviously going to encourage them to do that because a lot of times people don't know that. And from time to time, when we have these reviews, we'll talk more about the last trip that they took or the next trip that they're planning to take than the actual numbers. But, without knowing where you fall in sort of where your finances are, can you pull that off or not, then you can't have that conversation, right? So when you do, if you take the opportunity and you take maybe 3 minutes to calculate if you have saved enough money, how much money you can take out on a monthly basis and spend on those great things like taking a nice trip, go figure out what your PIN is. Again, PIN stands for Portfolio Income Needs. And if you go to our website, justdon'tlosethemoney.com, that exercise is going to tell you sort of what framework you fall into. The first framework would be you might have a shortfall. And there's not a lot we can do about that, right? But other than to give you indication, hey, look, you're 60. You said you'd like to retire at 65. Guess what? You took that PIN test and you have a shortfall. So the solution is maybe you delay retirement till 67. Maybe you take on a part-time job now so you can save more money so you can retire at 65. But if you're going to have a shortfall, I'd rather know when I'm 60 as opposed to 2 months before I want to retire, right? So the framework number 1 is shortfall. Framework number 2 is strengthen, stronger, right? Are you in a pretty good shape, but maybe we can do certain things to help you strengthen that retirement outlook a little bit more. Maybe we can help you with Social Security optimization. Maybe it's an asset allocation adjustment to put you in a better position to do that. So you're in pretty good shape, but we can help you sort of massage a little bit to get you there either faster or better.
Well, there's so many of us that, you can't wait to leave work. I can't wait to
retire. But if you know you can, that's a great thing to know, right?
Exactly.
And then the last framework is shopping. You're in really good shape, but by sharpening the pencil a little bit, everything is just going to be that much better. Maybe we can leave more money to help you leave more money to your children because you mentioned that's really important to you. And maybe that leads into a conversation of maybe doing some Roth conversions. So when you go and leave them that money, you leave it to them tax-free. Maybe it's about maybe making some charitable giving arrangements where you can take some tax deductions now and do some tax planning. So again, the 3 frameworks: shortfall, stronger, and sharpen. You want to know where you fall. And at that point, you can help yourself, put yourself by making sure that you're in a better position. That's the really important thing.
Well, there's so many things that we leave behind when we leave our work, and we leave something to look forward to and to have a great plan. I mean, when we talk about the fears of going into retirement, income planning, estate planning, tax planning, retirement planning, it all can help you make that adjustment into your retirement years and not sit around on the lazy boy and watch The Price is Right all day.
I'd rather be sitting on a plane going on vacation,
Got to be something better than that. Yeah. To find out more and to sit down with Sam and the team at Rubino Liang Wealth Partners, go to our website, which is justdon'tlosethemoney.com. And right there, you can take that test there about your PIN and find out exactly what you're going to need in retirement, and then sit down with Sam and sharpen that pencil and get to it and sit down and do some nuts and bolts retiring planning so that you can make a seamless adjustment into your retirement. Sam, that's all the time we have for today. It's been great talking to you once again.
Great talking to you, too.
All right. Join us on our website again, justdon'tlosethemoney.com, and we'll see you next time here with Sam Lang and Rubino Liang Wealth Partners.